Hey everyone, it's Olivia and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 21 books that are being released during the first half of 2021 that I am very excited for. So these are books that are being released from January throughout June. It's a pretty lengthy list, which means it'll be a pretty lengthy video, but I'm gonna try my best to keep it as short as possible. So let's just dive right into it. The first book that I'm going to be talking about is Wings of Ebony by J.L. This book follows Rue, a black teenager from Houston whose world is upended when she discovers her godly ancestry. There is an evil that is sinking its claws into humans and gods alike, and Rue has to unearth the magic of her true identity in order to save both worlds. So there is a magical island full of magic wielders, and Rue is the only half god, half human there. So the island has one very strict law, and that is the do not leave law, meaning you don't leave the island. However, Rue breaks this law and returns to her hometown, where she discovers that the evil that has been plaguing the magical world is also plaguing her hometown. So Rue has to embrace her true identity in order to save her neighborhood before the gods burn it to the ground. I'm really interested in this sort of urban fantasy that they've got going on with this book. The idea that there is the secret magical world where there's a great evil that starts seeping its way into the mortal world is really interesting to me, so I'm really excited for this book. The next book on my list is Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Crystal Maldonado. Charlie Vega is smart, she's funny, she's artistic, she's ambitious, and she's fat. And people tend to have a problem with that last one, especially her mom, who keeps leaving her weight loss shakes on her dresser. Charlie wants to have a good relationship with her body, but everyone and everything around her keeps telling her that she should be thinner, that she should be lighter, that she should be whiter, that she should be quieter. But there's always one person who is always in her corner, who always has her back, and that is her best friend, Amelia, who is slim, popular, athletic, and just flat out awesome. So when Brian, the first worthwhile guy to notice Charlie, asks her out, she is elated. She is on cloud 9. Everything is perfect until Charlie finds out that Brian actually asked out Amelia first. I am super excited to be reading this contemporary novel that is body positive, that is fat positive. We need a lot more of that. And I just want to say that this cover is gorgeous, and like, Charlie girl, you can get it. Girl, you are stunning. The next book on my list is All the Tides of Fate by Adeline Grace. This is the sequel and the final book of the All the Stars and Teeth duology. All the Stars and Teeth is actually one of my favorite reads from 2020, so I'm really excited to pick up this next book. I feel like it's gonna be really awesome. So after the events of the first book, Amora can't let people know about her weaknesses. To save herself and her kingdom, Visidia, Amora embarks on this quest in order to find this mythical artifact that could fix everything, but it comes at a terrible cost. As she tries to balance her loyalty to her people and her crew and the desires of her heart, Amora will soon discover a power that might just destroy her. I'm super excited for this. I know I'm probably just gonna say I'm super excited for every single book on this list, but especially this one because it is the sequel to one of my favorite books, as well as the fact that this is a finale, so I'm really hoping that it's gonna be epic. The next book on my list is Yesterday is History by Kosoko Jackson. This book follows Andre Cobb, who just received a life-saving liver transplant, but then one day he wakes up and finds himself in 1969. There he connects with a magnetic boy named Michael, but just as quickly as he was transported back in time, he finds himself slipping back into the present. So the family of Andre's donor explains that his liver transplant comes with a very interesting side effect. That side effect being time travel. So they task their youngest son, Blake, to teach Andre how to use his time traveling abilities. Throughout this, Andre continues to slip between the past and the present. Michael is everything Andre wishes that he could be, and Blake, still reeling from the death of his brother, keeps Andre at arm's length despite their obvious attraction to one another. Andre has to decide who he wants to be and what he wants and where he belongs before the consequences of time travel catch up to him and change his future forever. So time travel isn't usually something that I prefer to read because there are so many things that come with time travel that is mind-boggling, and sometimes things just don't make sense. But I'm really interested by this concept specifically because of the organ transplant. I like the idea that you receive this transplant and then you also receive some kind of residual power or memory from the person who donated their organs to you. The next book on my list is A Pho Love Story by Lone Lay. This book follows Bao Wing, who is just your average guy who gets average grades, has an average social life. He works at his parents' pho restaurant, and even there, he is his parents' 5th favorite employee. Lin Mai, on the other hand, is the opposite. She's like a firecracker. She's stable when unlit, but she's full of potential for joy and fire. She loves art and wants to pursue a career in it, but her parents actually rely on her more than they are willing to admit, especially because she's practically working full-time at their pho restaurant. For years, the Wings and the Mais have been rivals. Bao and Lin, who have avoided each other for most of their lives, both suspect that this rivalry runs much deeper than friendly competition. But a chance encounter brings the two together and sparks fly. So Lin and Bao struggle to find love in the midst of feuding families and complicated histories. I am super hyped for this book. Why? Because it's about Vietnamese Americans, and I am Vietnamese American, and I just love this concept because it's like Romeo and Juliet with feuding families, but it's because of a pho restaurant, and I'm just like super hyped for this. The next book on my list is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. So this follows the story of 16-year-old Deka. She lives in fear and anticipation of the blood ceremony that will determine whether she will become a member of her village. She already has this unnatural intuition, so she is praying that when the time comes, her blood runs red. But during her blood ceremony, her blood runs gold, which is the color of impurity. Because of this, she has to face a consequence worse than death. But then a mysterious woman gives her a choice. She can either stay in the village and submit to her fate, or she can leave and join this army of girls who are just like her. So these girls are called the Alakai, near immortals with special gifts. And they are the only ones who can stop the Empire's greatest threat. Deka decides to leave the only life that she has ever known to fight in the army. But she soon discovers that nothing and no one is quite what they seem, not even herself. Fantasy is my favorite genre, so this book really just hooked me from the start. Just the idea of what color your blood runs dictating whether you are pure or not, this idea that gold is seen as something impure, and this idea that there's kind of just this mystery surrounding what exactly does the color of your blood mean, and this magic and these powers, and why it only seems to be an army full of girls. The next book on my list is Yoke by Mary H.K. Choi. So Yoke follows the story of two estranged sisters, Jane and June. Jane is barely getting by. She's shuffling through fashion school and she has a deadbeat boyfriend and these clout-chasing friends, and she's got an eating disorder that she's not ready to confront. But at least she's not in Texas anymore. On the other hand, her sister June's rich with a job in finance and a massive apartment. But unlike Jane, June has never struggled a day in her life. That is until she gets diagnosed with cancer. And then the two of them find themselves living together because sisterly obligations are kind of important when one of you is dying. So I'm really excited about this book, especially because it is a story about sisters, and as somebody who has two sisters, I just really like stories that talk about family dynamics. I'm really interested to read this one, especially because it's about these two sisters who seem like to be nothing alike, but then something life-changing happens and the two of them are brought back together and have to figure out how to communicate with each other and live with each other, and hopefully discover that there are some things that they do have in common. Also, this cover is stunning. The next book on my list is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. So 5 years ago, Wendy's two brothers went missing in the woods. And now there are cases of kids disappearing once again, which brings questions regarding her brother's mysterious circumstances back into the light. Trying to run from her past, Wendy almost runs over this unconscious boy in the middle of the street, and she gets pulled back into the haunting town. Wendy teams up with Peter, this boy who she thought only existed in her stories, to find and save the missing kids, while Wendy has to confront what's waiting for her in the woods. So I don't typically go for books about like missing children. It's just kind of creepy for my taste, but I read Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas and I really enjoyed that book, so I was really interested to see what they were gonna write next. I am trying to read a little bit more outside of my comfort zone, so this seems kind of perfect to pick up. Also, this cover is gorgeous. The next book on my list is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. So this is the sequel to King of Scars. It is also the final book of the duology, and even Leigh Bardugo has stated that she considers this book the finale to the Grishaverse series. So I'm really hyped for this book. I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil King of Scars, but I will say that the wolves are circling and a young king will face his greatest challenge. I actually haven't read King of Scars yet, so I just avoided reading the synopsis for Rule of Wolves, but that's definitely gonna be something that I am planning to binge read once this book is released. The next book on my list is The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. So 16-year-old Alex Rufus tries to be the best employee at the ice cream shop, the best boyfriend to his amazing girlfriend Talia, and the best protector over his little brother Isaiah. But sometimes his best isn't enough. That's because whenever he touches an object or a person, he can see its future. So when he touches an ice cream scoop, he can see himself using that ice cream scoop to scoop some ice cream. When he touches his car, he gets this vision years in the future of his car being totaled and underwater. When he touches his girlfriend Talia, he sees them at the precipice of breaking up, and that terrifies him. And when Alex touches this photo that gives him a vision of his brother's imminent death, everything changes. I really love this premise. It gave me chills when I read it the first time because I was just like, ooh, okay. And I love how it is exploring this idea of at what cost would you pay in order to see the future? And Alex is somebody who never asked for this gift and it haunts him and it gives him anxiety. So I'm just really excited to see exactly how this story plays out. Can he save his brother? Can he prevent the future from happening? Or is it just all self-fulfilling? The next book on my list is Witches Seeped in Gold by Cianan Smart. This is a Jamaican-inspired fantasy novel that follows two girls with a common enemy. Irea has spent her entire life in a cell, but every day brings her closer to freedom and closer to vengeance. Jasmine is the queen's daughter, but unlike her sister before her, she is not willing to die in order to feed her mother's power. Sworn enemies, these two witches enter a precarious alliance to take down a mutual threat. But revenge is a bloody pursuit, and nothing is certain, except for the lengths that they are willing to go in order to win this game. I am super excited for a Jamaican-inspired fantasy because I am tired of reading all of that Eurocentric fantasy. I'm also really excited to dive into this world and explore its magic, as well as this concept that the princess has to give her own life in order to strengthen the power of the queen. I want to know how exactly that works. Does it make her immortal? And does she just have like a ton of children so that they can sacrifice their lives in order to make her stronger? I just have all these questions and I'm really excited to read this book to figure out what's gonna happen. The next book on my list is something that I am super excited for because it sounds like something that is gonna be really fun to read. And that book is Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. So this book follows Medi Chan, who accidentally kills her blind date, and her meddlesome mother calls 4 of her meddlesome aunties in order to help get rid of the body. Unfortunately, a dead body proves to be much more difficult to dispose of, especially when they accidentally ship it in a cake cooler to the over-the-top billionaire wedding at an island resort on the coast coast of California. It is the biggest job yet for Medi's family wedding planning business, and nothing, even a corpse, is not gonna get in the way of Medi's auntie's buttercream flowers. But things continue to go downhill when Medi's ex makes a surprise appearance amid the wedding chaos. Is it possible for Medi to escape murder charges, charm her ex back into her life, and pull off a stunning wedding all in one weekend? I don't know the answer to that question. This seems like a wild ride that I am just ready to dive into. It seems crazy and hectic and chaotic, and I am totally here for it. The next book on my list is Blade of Secrets by Trisha Levenseller. This follows the story of 18-year-old Ziva. Ziva prefers metal to people. She is a blacksmith who uses her magical gift to craft unique weapons imbued with power. So Ziva receives this commission from a very powerful warlord, and the result is a sword capable of stealing its victims' secrets. When Ziva learns the warlord's intention to use that weapon to enslave the world under her rule, Ziva takes her sister and flees. They are joined by a distractingly handsome mercenary and a young scholar with extensive knowledge of the world's known magics as they set out to keep the sword safe until they can find a worthy wielder or until they can find a way to destroy it. This book has everything that I love in a fantasy novel. It's got swords and magic and sisterly dynamics, a mysterious, handsome mercenary, and I really love the Excalibur-esque concept that they have going on here with a very powerful sword that needs to be wielded by somebody worthy, or this concept that it's too powerful and they have to find a way to destroy it. The next book on my list is Meet Cute Diary by Emery Lee. This book follows Noah Ramirez, who thinks he's an expert on romance, and he has to be because he runs this very popular blog called Meet Cute Diary, which is a collection of trans happily ever afters. But there's one problem. All the stories are fake. When a troll exposes the blog as fiction, Noah's world unravels. The only way to save the diary is to convince everybody that the stories are true, but Noah doesn't have any proof. But then Drew walks into Noah's life and the pieces seem to fall into place. Drew is willing to fake date Noah to save the diary, but Noah's feelings grow beyond their staged romance. And he realizes that dating in real life is nothing like it is on the page. I am so excited for this book. I'm so ready for some trans representation as well as just this really cute concept. I love the fake dating trope, and this one just sounds super awesome. The next book on my list is Counting Down With You by Tashi Bhuyan. So Karina Ahmed's plan is to keep her head down, get through high school without a fuss, and follow her parents' rules, even if that means sacrificing her own dreams. When her parents go to Bangladesh, Karina expects some peace and quiet. Instead, she finds herself in a fake relationship with the school's resident bad boy after he tells people that she is his girlfriend. Ace Clyde does everything right. He brings her coffee in the mornings, he impresses her friends without really trying, and he even promises to buy her a dozen books every week if she goes along with his fake dating facade. Though Karina agrees, she can't help but count down the days until her parents return. But is that really what she wants? Again, we see another book with a fake dating trope, which I love. I love that this is focused around a character of color. We are just getting so many of those this year, and I'm so happy about it. This seems really cute as well, and I am excited to read it. The next book on my list is Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. So, a strange darkness is growing in Alward. Even Karain can feel it, tucked away in her small town at the edge of the sea. She soon discovers that she is the last of an ancient lineage and that she is the last hope for saving the world. But she won't be alone. Even as darkness falls, she is joined by a band of very unlikely heroes. They have to go up against a vicious opponent who is invincible and determined to burn down all kingdoms to ash with an army unlike anything that anybody has ever seen before. So I've actually never read any of Victoria Aveyard's books, but this one especially caught my eye because of the cover. I just think it's stunning and I love anything that has a freaking sword on the cover. And I mean, as much as it's overdone, I do love the whole chosen one trope, and for Corraine to discover that she's like the last hope of saving the world while also being joined by just like a bunch of unlikely heroes is exactly what I want to read. If there had to be like a #1 book that I am most excited for the entirety of 2021, it would be this next book. And that book is You Will Get Through This Night by Daniel Howell. This is the only nonfiction book that I have on my list. I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I am super hyped with this because I love Dan and he's been on hiatus for a while and I miss him, and I'm just really excited to dive into this book. So it's written by Daniel Howell, who is a very popular YouTuber. If you don't know who he is, you have been living under a rock. And he wrote this in conjunction with a qualified psychologist to write a no-nonsense book that gives you the tools to understand your mind so that you can be in control and really live. And it's split into 3 chapters. So the first is This Night, which is how to get through the toughest moments of your life and be prepared to face anything. The second is Tomorrow. These are small steps to change your thoughts and actions with a big impact on your life. And the third chapter is The Days After, which is a guide to help look after yourself in the long term, not just to survive, but to thrive. It's a book intended to assure you that even in your darkest times, there is always hope. I am really, really excited for this book. I feel like this is going to be really cathartic. I feel like I'm going to laugh and cry, and I feel like this is just a book that I really, really, really need to read, especially after the mess that was last year. I'm just really, really excited for this book, and I cannot wait for the official cover reveal. The next book on my list is Made in Korea by Sarah Suk. So Valerie Kwan and her cousin Charlie run VNC K Beauty, which is their school's most successful student-run enterprise. Valerie is saving up money to take her beloved and adventurous grandma to her dream city, which is Paris. Then a new kid arrives. West Jung just wants to pursue music despite his parents' disapproval. When his classmates clamor to buy the K-pop branded beauty products that his mom gave to him to make new friends, he sees an opportunity to make money in order to pay for the music school tuition that he knows his parents would never pay. But he doesn't realize that he just painted a giant target on his back. He's VNC's K-Beauty's biggest competitor. The stakes are high as Valerie and Wes try to outsell each other, make the most money, and take the throne for the best business in school, all while trying to resist the undeniable spark that's crackling between them. So this is giving me similar vibes to like A Pho Love Story with these two competing businesses and this sort of forbidden love. This seems like a super cute story and I'm just really excited to read it. The next book on my list is Tokyo Ever After by Emiko Jean. Izumi Tanaka has never felt like she could fit in because she is a Japanese American in this very small and mostly white Northern California town. She is raised by her single mother, and it's always been her and her mom against the world. But then Izzy discovers the father that she never knew is actually the crown prince of Japan, which means Izzy is literally a princess. In a world when Izzy flies to Japan, but being a princess isn't just ball gowns and tiaras. There are conniving cousins, hungry press, a scowling but handsome bodyguard who just might be her soulmate, and thousands of years of traditions and customs that she has to learn overnight. Izzy soon finds herself caught in between two worlds. In America, she was never American enough, but will she be Japanese enough to be the princess of Japan? And will she get her happily ever after? This book is practically an Asian version of Princess Diaries and I am totally here for it. I'm really excited to read this. It seems like something that I'm definitely gonna enjoy reading, so I can't wait until this book is released. The next book on my list is Jay's Gay Agenda by Jason June. So Jay Collier is the only out gay kid in his small town. While all his friends can't stop talking about their heterosexual hookups and relationships, Jay can only dream of his own firsts. He compiles this to-do list of all the romantic things that he hopes to one day experience, his gay agenda. Then, against all odds, Jay's family actually moves to Seattle, and he starts his senior year at this high school that has a thriving LGBTQ plus community. For the first time ever, Jay feels like he finally found a place where he belongs. But as Jay starts crossing things off of his list, he's soon torn between his heart and his hormones, his old friends and his new friends, because after all, life and love don't go according to plan at all. Obviously, I am totally here for the LGBTQ plus representation of this book. I also think that it's a really cute concept and I'm really excited to read it. And finally, we reach the 21st book on my list, which is Girls at the Edge of the World by Laura Brooke Robson. This book takes place in a world that is bound for an epic flood, and there are a chosen few who are guaranteed safe passage into the new world once the waters recede. Of course, the Castravian royal court will be saved, but the fate of the royal flyers, a fleet of aerial silk performers, is less certain. Hellbent on survival, the principal flyer, Natasha, will do anything to save the flyers, who are the only family that she has ever known. But the newest recruit for the flyers, Ella, is less driven by her desire to survive the floods and more driven by revenge. As the oceans rise, so does the undeniable spark between the two flyers. With the end of the world looming and dark secrets of the Castravian court coming to light, Ella and Natasha can either give in to despair or find a new reason to live. So this book actually isn't something that I would typically pick up. This is definitely one of those books that is kind of outside of my comfort zone, but the cover totally caught my eye, and the fact that this is a sapphic romance just made me super excited to pick it up, and I'm really interested to see what I think about this book when I read it. So those are 21 books that are being released during the first half of 2021 that I am super excited about. If any of these books caught your eye, then let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, and if you want to see more of my stuff, then make sure you hit subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when I upload, because I upload twice a week on Mondays and Fridays and you don't want to miss out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!